While regulators are discouraging regional banks from growing through acquisitions, our next guest writes in a Financial Times op-ed that in order to compete with big banks like J.P. Morgan, just like Capital One Discover, could help boost regional bank competition. Joining us right now is Sheila Bair. She is the former FDIC chair and a systemic risk senior advisor. Good morning to you. And I will tell you, I was surprised to read this op-ed, Sheila, because historically, when we've talked about risk and we've talked about getting big and bigger and too big to fail, I've always thought you were on the other side of this. But this is a very interesting sort of twist.
Well, yeah, I am very concerned about concentrations. We do have too much concentration in the banking industry, but it's the very, very top. It's the J.P. Morgan Chases, it's the B of A's, those top four. And actually, J.P. Morgan Chase and B of A are starting to pull away from the other two, Citi and Wells, to provide even more concentration. So that's where regulators should be focused, impeding regional bank M&A. We have a lot of regional banks. It's highly competitive. But they need scale to compete. And if you want a market-driven solution to some of this concentration, you need to let the regional banks get a bit bigger. And also, it's also regional bank M&A is important from a stability standpoint, especially when you get into times of stress. You know, the FDIC and other regulators have proactively worked with banks, weak banks, to merge with stronger ones to help stabilize the system. So you're kind of taking that tool out of the kit as well.
It's typically almost sacrilegious to say, but I'll ask you the question. Do we have too many banks in this country? I mean, we always talk about local banks and the value that those local banks have to their communities and how important that is. But there's a flip side argument to say, look at certain other countries that have only a handful of banks. Where should we be?
Yeah. Well, I think the market should drive those solutions, and that we need to charter more banks, too. We need to worry about regulatory complexity. I've been a strong advocate for strong capital regulation and liquidity regulation, as you know, but I think you can do that much more simply and less expensively from an administrative cost standpoint, which is also, you know, impair the ability of banks to start and grow because of these costs, which also benefit the larger banks. So I think that should be market driven. I think our system of multiple banks is more dynamic. It's more innovative. It's served us better than these other countries where you have highly, huge concentrations and just a handful of small banks, of large banks. Switzerland, you only got one now. So that's a very precarious position for the government to be in. So no, I think it's a good thing to have lots of banks. I think it's been a strength, not a weakness of our system.
Do you think that the prevention, if you will, of more mergers and acquisitions in the banking space is a function of the Treasury Department? Do you think it's a function of the DOJ and FTC? I just interviewed Jonathan Cantor and Lena Khan last week. I mean, you sort of have these competing interests. I could see a Treasury Department saying that maybe we should have more concentration, and I could see Jonathan Cantor or Lena Khan saying maybe not.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's where you're going to be focused. Broadly, I support the administration's focus on increased, corporate concentrations throughout our economy. And a lot of that's been driven by super low interest rates. So some of the higher interest rates are going to be correcting for a bit of it. But if you are worried about concentrations in banking, and we should be, look at the top. To attack the regional bank M&A is just going to increase the competitive moat around these very, very large institutions we have already. So that's where you should be focusing. Higher capital would be one way to do it for the mega banks. Basel III seems to be bogged down. Look, I think there's going to be substantial revisions before we see what happens there. But if you want to reduce concentrations, focus at the very top, not the regional banking sector. The regional banking sector is not concentrated.
Do you think there'd be a distinction between how banks and bank mergers would be approached under a Biden administration versus a Trump administration?
I assume so. Trump is so unpredictable. Who knows what would happen there? But I do think there is, yes, this is symptomatic of a broader policy initiative to attack corporate concentrations. And again, some of that I'm sympathetic to, but in the banking sector, they're focusing on the wrong place. The true concentration is at the very, very largest banks.
Can I get you to weigh in on what has been written about in terms of a very toxic environment at the FDIC and your successor, or multiple times later along the line, but his exit?
Yeah, well, I think it's tragic. It's heartbreaking. I have said I think it's this is hurting him. It's hurting the agency. It's time for him to exit. He said he will as soon as his successor is confirmed.
Should he be out of there though already? I mean, this
him.
idea that he's hanging around the hoop.
Yeah. Well, I do. I know. I think morale is very bad at the FDIC. They need a fresh face. They need a fresh perspective. They need strong leadership, someone who understands the operational side of the. It's a very complex agency as well as on the policy side. But they need that. But if Marty goes now, you're going to have a split board. It's just going to be paralysis, and I don't see how that's going to help the agency or staff morale either. So I think the solution here is for the White House to act quickly to bring in new leadership. Now, it's a problem because the place is having a lot of problems right now, and there's going to be job uncertainty, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen in the elections. And if Trump is elected, Mr. Trump's elected, all bets are off in terms of respecting agency independence. He could just fire everybody. So I think that is impairing the White House search.
But can we recruit you on a temporary basis? What are you doing this summer? Are you available?
No, that's right.
Are you available just for the next 6 months? We can just say it's a short term. You're coming in to clean things up, and then somebody else will take over, depending on what happens after the election.
Well, that's very flattering. I don't think I'm the right person, but I do think that might be another alternative to look at a potential recess appointment. Bring somebody in who's strong on the operational side to help start providing a fresh start. The FDIC is a great agency. I really get upset when I hear people say, oh, it's always been toxic, it's always been terrible. That is just not true. When I left the FDIC, we had a highly energized, highly professional, highly motivated agency.
So what do you think happened then, Sheila? What do you think happened to this group? Is it really Marty?
No, because for years after I left, we continued. I was on the outside looking in, but, rankings and best places to work remained high. I think there were tensions between him and Yellen McWilliams. I think that maybe was a distraction. And then, part of the problem was that we were having these incidents widespread at the regional level that were bubbling up, but some of them were at the headquarters level too, but people weren't responding. They weren't imposing accountability. And that kind of thing just starts spinning out of control. So you've got to, the heads of these agencies, I know policy is fun, but you've got to pay attention to the administrative, the operational side as well, and make sure people are held to the highest standards. And the FDIC and traditionally has and will again have very high standards of conduct.
If not you, do you have a candidate you'd like to nominate right here?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it publicly if I did, but I think that's the profile I think the White House should be looking for, and fingers crossed they're able to bring in somebody soon.